introduce yourself. Okay, next. See, any journalists here? Because I mean, they obviously have a lot of license to create stories. um, moving on, let's talk about the time you came to Dubai. You know, suddenly you, or the United Arab Emirates, you're in Ajman. Can you tell us what happened? Because what I heard from you earlier on, it just seems very unexpected. So you were on your way to Africa.
Yeah, I used to transit through Dubai to travel to Africa.
Yeah.
We had operations in Tanzania or Nigeria. So I
Yeah.
used to transit via Dubai. And one of the reasons we used to come here is also, I used to buy cars for me. I
Okay.
bought a Mercedes. And it had to be parked here for 2 years.
Okay.
So we come, look, India had a lot of restrictions to bringing cars.
Yeah.
So I used to buy a new Mercedes and then take it back home. I bought a Pajero, took it back home.
Okay.
So one of my visits to UAE, I happened to meet through my brother, a sheikh from Ajman, a ruling family member, and we started talking. So I was a timber merchant, you know, my dress was jeans and t-shirt, and I was very casual. So he just asked me, we are from Ajman, it's a small emirate. Can you think of an idea which can help the economy of Ajman? First of all, I am surprised he asked me this question. I told you I was dressed in jeans and t-shirt and I am a timber merchant and real estate developer. So I quickly answered, I come from Mangalore. In our neighborhood, there is a small town called Manipal. One person who's a visionary, the Manipal, he started a medical school, he started a hospital. It ended up becoming a university city. Today, I think Manipal has got about 15,000-20,000 students, huge hospitals, and Manipal is frankly more famous than Ajman, Mangalore, internationally.
Yeah.
It had multiple effects on the economy, like hotels came up, taxis started doing well, restaurants started doing well, foreign tourists came into Manipal. So I told him, if you start a medical school or a hospital here, maybe foreigners will come in, it will have multiple effect on your economy, hotels will come up, restaurants will come up, taxis will flourish. That was it. It was a casual comment, it was no serious discussion. So after a few days he called me and he said, Mohiuddin, can you come and meet His Highness? And can you dress up well, wear a suit? So I borrowed a suit from my brother and I wore a jacket and I went to meet His Highness. Sat with His Highness. And they told me, His Highness, you have to address him carefully. And sat with all the respect and he asked me, where are you from? I said, I am from India. What do you do? I said, timber business and real estate. Then he said, the other sheikh, not mention names, he said, he was talking about some project which could be good for Ajman, like a medical school or hospital. Do you have experience in this? I said, frankly, no. My family, it's a large family, they own hospitals and all, but I am not involved in anything. I am a pure timber man and a real estate man. He said, can you build one? I said, Sheikh, I have no knowledge about this. But he said, you look like a smart chap, maybe you can do it. I thought for a moment, I said, why not? Let me go back, bring some consultants from India, and I'll tell you how exactly I can go about doing it. So I went back to India. I told my father that I have an opportunity to build a medical school. He said, are you crazy? You have enough and more work here. He said, no, I feel it's very interesting. I want to do it. I took a few consultants from some reputed universities, including Manipal. I came down and did a research about licensing, about the requirements. And then we felt there is a lot of scope for a medical school in the country. We went back to the government and said, yes, we can do it. We need support in 3 areas. One, Ministry of Higher Education does not allow expats to own higher education. Sunny Work used to have schools, but no one had any colleges or medical schools in the country. They don't give license to expats. So 2, I need a piece of land to build a campus, about 25 acres of 1 million square foot of land. 3, I need a hospital to train our students, So The government thought about it and they told me about the licensing from the Minister of Higher Education. You forget the license. I am going to issue a decree. So we are above the ministry. So the Ajman government issued a royal decree, formation of Gulf Medical College on January 31st, 1998, and we came into existence. But that was just the beginning. Sheikh Nayan immediately called me and said, okay, you got away with it. Now come for the accreditation. It was 7 long years of accreditation process. Our team knows the challenges we faced those days. 2, about the land, His Highness gifted the land to me. 1 million square feet of land next to Khalifa Hospital. Those days I was the first expat to have such a huge piece of land in the country. But the challenge there was, I went to the bank and I said, I am building a medical school. This is my feasibility report. I have a land gifted by His Highness by the government of Ajman. So they said, we don't mortgage gifted land. I said, what do I do? He said, go and buy it from the government. I said, can I buy the land? I am new to this country. It's a new project for me. He said, no, go and talk to the government and I am sure they will sell it to you. So I went back to the government and I said, look, I am facing one more problem. Banks are not willing to mortgage gifted land. They want me to buy it from you. I said, okay, good news. Pay money, take it. So they charged me a nominal, very nominal fee for the land. And I became a owner. I remember those days, B.R. Shetty, who came for the inauguration of the college, said, Mohiuddin, I don't have a single cent of square feet of land in the country. And you are new to the country and you own 25 acres of land in the country. So I have been lucky that way. The third challenge was, I told the government I need a hospital for training students. So those days Ajman had a brand new Khalifa Hospital, 350 bedded hospital. So they said, this is yours, you take it for training students. So when we started admitting students, the day we announced the college, we got about 1,000 applications, students coming to join the college, and we were targeting Asians, but we hardly got any Asian students. You know, we got students from those days maybe 30 countries, mainly Arabs, nationals. And one of the challenges those days we faced was we had to change our faculty recruitment again. We had brought in Indian faculty. We had to bring diverse Egyptians and Iraqis and to make the students comfortable. And then when the students are about to go to the hospitals, the Minister of Health refused. They said, you have too many students from different nationalities. Our hospitals are meant for nationals. They are going to object, foreign students coming into our hospitals. So I had no option. I had to jump into a hospital project. So I had to build our own hospital in Ajman, and it was a very serious time for us. We are almost at the dead end, you know. We had no options. We had to build a hospital, and you know, frankly, I am a timber merchant. I am a real estate man. I could build a hospital, but I didn't know the difference between a pediatrician and a gynecologist those days. So luckily for us, maybe because we are serious people, because our intentions were good, God was kind to us. It was a huge hospital. By UAE standards, private sector, it was a huge hospital. 200 beds. 1998, 2000 was a big hospital. Even today, there is no private sector hospital of 200 beds now. We built it. I have a fantastic team. So we thought of very, very innovative ways of marketing it, because UAE is a very thinly populated country. There is no much patients, you know. And the local patients, they can go to the government hospital free. So we had severe competition. Government hospital free. We charge. And we need lots of patients to come in because students are being trained there. So we did a lot of innovative marketing, including joining hands with like Harvard, with Hamburg University. We had conferences. So we were in the newspaper all the time. We were trendsetters in many ways. You know, many things we did was no one ever thought of in the country then.
Mr. Mohiuddin, before we go into, and we'll dig deeper into the innovative marketing, I mean, doesn't the story just seems too good to be true? I mean, they were too nice to you. You kept on telling them the truth, and they were still saying, "Okay, do it." And then an Emiri decree, and then you did that.
Though it sounds simple, it was not easy.
Really? Because to me, I mean, isn't it easy? I mean, he's got the ruler of Ajman as his personal best buddy, and saying yes to everything. What was driving the ruler? Was it the explosive growth of Dubai? Was it something? Because to me, this is not routine behavior. There must be some thinking behind that.
No, you can ask people around, maybe the healthcare professionals. Those days was very challenging.
Right.
We went through difficult days, and it's not easy to build a hospital.
I was going to say, I mean, it's like me trying to build a nuclear reactor. I mean, it doesn't,
exactly.
I don't know where to start.
I didn't know the difference between a pathologist and a pediatrician. So imagine bringing the best.
So how did you do it? Because it's really important, because a lot of people here go into new businesses and they connect with new businesses, and you have no idea of, and everybody tells us that we've got to know the business, you've got to know the details, etc. And you are here an example, you didn't have a clue about what you were doing, and you're standing here as a very successful person. How do you do it? I mean, what's the advice to them? No, I'm not just attacking you, I'm just saying, what's the advice to them saying?
When I started the university, the ministry had no way of accrediting, and they had no standards how to run a medical school. It's only after we established, they brought in accreditation team.
Right.
So what we did those days was, our provost will remember, we created a governing council with advisors from abroad, from Harvard, from Malaysia, from India, from local medical universities. And I told them, we are creating this governing council, one, to be transparent the way we work. Two, to audit ourselves, what we are doing is, everyone comes in for meetings twice a year, top-notch people, knowledgeable people, and they talk about, our provost, the deans make presentation what we are doing. And they have comments to make. I had some very personal advisors from India also. They said, Moideen, this is wrong, this is unethical, don't do this.
So what's your advice to, how many people in this audience run their own businesses? About 1/3 of the audience. As you got into that, running your business, how many people started something which was completely new and fresh for them versus their qualifications of the past? When you went into that space, what was the thought process? Do we have a mic, please? Yeah. A couple of comments, because I'd like to engage with this conversation, because I think it's really one of the key elements of today's story, is how Mr. Moideen went into a completely new business, redefined the space, made something successful in an area which is not his specialization. I think it's a very interesting insight. Please, any comments from somebody who started a business? There were about 8 or 10 hands.
Okay, great. My name is Nancy. And yes, I've lived in this country for about 18 years. It's about the same time as you have. And 11 years ago, I did something that hadn't been done before, because I was employed at the time. And one of the things that I used to find really difficult was a place to do my hair, because it's different from everybody else's. And I used to actually fly home to do my hair. I remember I used to arrive at the airport, and there was a salon at the airport, and I actually used to go, push my trolley, and do my hair before I called to be picked up, because, my hair was just really bad. I remember going into an Indian salon here, and they just couldn't do my hair. And
I had the same problem, I tell you, exactly the same. That's why I shaved it off.
I said to them, my hair can't be as straight as yours, because my hair is different. So, anyway,
what did you do?
Eventually, I decided that I was going to set up a ladies' salon for Afro hair.
Yeah.
And I was employed at the time, so there was a challenge of how do I handle this, because I didn't want to leave my job. And so I went to the economic department, and I met a lady who told me that, I met different people. Somebody told me it wasn't possible because I was employed. And one told me there was an alternative, that I needed to get a no objection letter from my employer so that I could be able to set up
I understand.
So that's what I did.
I appreciate the detail, but I think what we're really looking for is the essence of the story. You started Was it successful? Did you make it?
It's still running today.
It's still running. Your hair looks
One
lovely.
of the busiest. Thank you very much. Yeah, bravo. So I did it while I was employed.
Okay.
With a no objection letter.
Okay.
Yeah, and my employer at the time was very, very helpful. Shook
Okay.
my hand and told me how bold I was in actually approaching him to give me a letter.
Brilliant.
Yeah,
thank you.
thank you.
Any other comment? One more comment or a question to our celebrated guest. Anybody? Completely fresh new business? Madam, please. How you shifted and what you went through, and then we'll ask him as an expert, Mr. Mohyuddin, what he thinks about his journeys and his opportunities, please.
Okay, so it's just actually just a very brief comment that I want to make, and I think it just comes down to just wanting to make a difference. Because listening to what you said today, listening to it resonates with what I did, and it is about making a difference. And I think that's the critical point. When someone, your vacation was very different to what you're doing today. I come from a legal background. I studied law, but today I'm selling drinking water filtration systems that have a very big impact in people in the workplace and also for people at homes. And it's just as simple as that. I think it's just about making a difference.
Brilliant, thank you.
And I think you did fantastic, making a difference to the municipality and the Emirate of Ajman. So I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Making a difference, shifting industries, trying something fresh and new. Any thoughts from your side, sir?
I never believed, I was not a doctor by profession,
Yeah.
I'm not an academician by profession. I'm a businessman. So I always told my team, my job is of an administrator, of a facilitator. I sit here and support you all to succeed. I am not going to say I am the dean of the